Hi there, everyone, and welcome to today's This is Church. When people are teaching you things, you've been taught growing up, you've been preached at, you've been taught by gurus or teachers, whoever, your parents, they taught you something. Now, most people are not aware that as you are being told or taught, the ultimate goal is not just to believe. About this word believe, most people, they use it in a religious context, because every religion is trying to build up its own thing, its own establishment, its own name. So they build you up to be a believer. A believer. Now, a believer is someone who believes in a certain instruction, in a certain words that are being taught. That is a believer. Someone who believes in the culture, in the traditional way of doing things. That is a believer. The person has facts why they are doing these things. They have facts. They have proof why they are doing what they are doing. So they remain being just a bunch of believers. And they call themselves believers. But when you come into awareness, when you come into being, when you have this Christ consciousness, you move beyond believing. Because believing is just a means to an end. It's a process to a destination. It's a journey to a certain goal. Believing is just a start. That's where you start. Okay? So, when you are being taught, when you are being told or preached at, remember, believing will ground you to a certain religion, to a certain sector amongst people. But if you want to go beyond just certain people or sector or name or tradition or religion, you have to go beyond believing. Now I want you to understand this again about believing. Believing is following certain instructions, giving proof of facts that you adhere to. So you try to convince yourself that, or commit yourself to actually live by these instructions or by these guidelines because you have facts, because somebody said it, because it was started maybe a long time ago by somebody else. So you live by believing. You believe in those things because you have facts, you have proof, you have a history on those whatever things they are. But when you come into being, when you come into this Christ consciousness, you go beyond believing. Now let me tell you a story. This is actually my experience. So one day I was coming off from a meeting, right? It was a church meeting. So when I was coming back from there, I was going home with a couple of people around me. Now I told them something. So I told them that there is something that I will do, or it's something that I have done already. And one of them asked me, did you ask God about it? Did you ask God if He approves? And then this just came to me. For me, there is no need to ask God for His approval. I don't need to ask God if this is the right thing. I don't need to ask God if I have to do this or don't do that. I don't need to. The reason is, I already have Christ consciousness in me. I am the Christ consciousness. So you see, how is it different? Believing, you need approval. You need words. You need to believe in certain words by somebody else. So you are a believer. But when you come into being, when you come into this consciousness, as Paul said, he said, let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ. So he was talking about Christ consciousness. So most people, they just live and lay low on these believing things. They don't go beyond. They don't attain this Christ consciousness.
Because I need to tell you, I keep her out there. Can you skew my flower please a bit? I don't want to see that.
Oh, funny one, I don't do it.
Yes. Thank you.
All right.
Too much. Yes, thank you.
Right? Okay. Is that a record? Now, you have to understand the difference between these two, right? A religion can be a way to the consciousness or to awareness. I myself started in religion, and I know a couple of beings that started by doing religion or religious things, and then they ended up being aware of this consciousness. Some people may call it Christ consciousness, some people may call it self, some people may call it awareness. You see, those are just different names. Some people may call it even the spirits. Different names for one thing. It's all one and the same thing. So believing for me was and should be a way for you to realize the consciousness. Like I've said, I don't need now to ask God for his approval because I already have this consciousness. So my consciousness is the consciousness of God. So whatever I do, it is God doing the thing. It is God doing that action or saying that word or making that decision. So that is why I don't need God's approval. I don't need to pray for his approval because I am his approval. So as I move, I have moved beyond believing. There is one thing that Master Jesus said. He said, look, I am a doorway. He said, I am a doorway. That's what he is. A doorway for you to realize. Not the end. Not the destination. He is the doorway for you to realize. There is this being. There is this awareness. There is this consciousness you should live by. This is what you should adhere to. This is what you should set your heart to. Every time, go beyond believing. I have heard, as you have seen in our past meetings that we've had already, we've never opened a book. The reason why is because it goes beyond a book. It's not about a book. It's not about words. It's not about reading history, because believing is that. They will tell you, but why didn't you open a book, a holy book, whatever it is that I think it's a holy book? Why didn't you open a holy book? Because they want history, they want facts, but we do not live by facts. We are guided by the Spirit. We live by the Spirit. The great Master, Jesus, once said to one of the guys who were too religious at the time, they were called Pharisees. And I also think, by the way, that most people, if Jesus could come now, if Jesus was still around, those people who say they do worship him, I think they're the ones who would actually do not want him in their churches, or will avoid him in their churches or in their lives. I know that's a fact. Because even before, when he came, the people who rejected him are the ones who are supposed to welcome him. And look, they all thought we are doing God's service. They said by rejecting Jesus, we are doing God's service. That's what they thought. And I know you might be thinking, no, if Jesus comes, I will run to him, I will live by him. That's what you think right now. But if these words, they are repelling to you, this is Jesus. If you are rejecting the same words that I'm speaking, you are rejecting already Jesus. Because he said, you go to the scriptures when he spoke to the Pharisees. He said, you go to the scriptures, you go and search words because you think in those words there is life. But no. The words that I speak, they are spirits and they are life. So that is life, the spirit, not the words, going back to the scriptures, going back to facts, going back to history. And you know what they said? Whenever Jesus did something, they would say, but Moses said. So they would always refer him back. And that's the same thing that most people are doing right now. I've had an experience, a lot of encounter where I was in front and speaking to people and they will reject these words. And I'm comfortable with that because that's what, they don't understand. You see? So they will tell me that, but Jesus said. When I say something, but they will say, but Jesus said. They are doing the very same thing. You realize now that you are already rejecting Jesus. Because when Jesus was around, they told him, but Moses said. And now I'm here, they tell me, but Jesus said. They are doing the very same thing. You know, we've never read a book here. And Jesus will tell them, you go to the book, you review the books because you're thinking if there is life. Life is not there. This is life. What I'm giving is life. It's not about words. It's not about words. It's about the word. It's about the energy. It's about the spirit. It's about the awareness. You feel that awareness. Go beyond believing. I'm not a believer. I'm not a believer. Go beyond being a believer. Don't accept that you are a believer. They call you believers and you are so proud on being a believer. Being a believer is the start. That's where it starts. That's a novice stage. That's where you are still a baby. That is like being given birth to. And you keep on trying to remain a child. You have to grow up. You have to grow up. Stop being a child. Stop being a believer. Do not believe based on facts, based on words, based on scriptures, based on someone who said, somebody said. What are you saying? What are you saying? You tell me somebody said, what are you saying? Someone said, Paul said, Peter said. Yes, they said that, but what are you saying? Remember, you are the word. So which words does this word give us? I give you myself. I am able to give you these words because they came into this one word, from this one word. Go beyond believing. Believing is just means to an end. It's a means to an end. It's not where it stops. It's not the finish line. It's just the start. You've only had the gun popping up and you think I'm already there. No, you've just started. Move ahead. Move forward. Move to the finish line. Move to the finish line until you recognize, until you are sync, you are one with this awareness. Christ consciousness. So to the lady that asked me if I have asked God about what I was doing, I didn't. I don't have to. I do not ask God. I am God. Me and God are one. Whatever decision that I make, it's the same decision God is making. If you could go to God in heaven and ask him about the decision that I've made, he will tell you this. I myself as God has made the very same decision. Whatever decision that I make, whatever move that I make, God has made that very same move. I'm not getting God's approval. I already have his approval. I'm not trying to please God. God is pleased with me. Hence, I am here now, today, speaking to you. I am here now. That means God's approved. God has already approved this. God has approved my encounter with you. And also, God has approved that you have an encounter with me. And you're thinking, should I accept these words or should I reject these words? But God has approved you to have an encounter with me, to hear these words. And you are still thinking, but no, but somebody said, but you know, you are having this encounter with me because you were supposed to have this encounter with self. This is it. This is awareness. This is the Christ consciousness. The consciousness that the religious guys rejected. They couldn't handle Jesus. And you wonder why you are having goosebumps right now to handle this. Grow. Do not rely on information. Don't just rely on facts and history. Don't just stick to words. Go beyond believing. Stop being a believer. Go beyond that. Become the awareness. Be aware of this awareness. Be one with this awareness. You know, you can plan and plan, but I say move according to the Spirit. Remember, the words, they do not have life, but the word that I speak, the word that I speak is spirit and is life. This is the energy you should conceive and harbor. If this energy, as you're feeling it now, it feels like it's repulsive, don't worry. Keep on receiving more and more and more. Keep on harboring it. Keep on harboring it until all that dark energy, on all that negative energy that has made a place for itself in you will go away. When this energy comes, everything else has to move, has to go away. This is it. This is it. When light comes, darkness flees. When there is light, there cannot be any darkness. So, believing, it's fine. It's just a start. There's nothing wrong with believing. But there is something wrong when you remain just being a believer. Don't remain there. Go beyond believing. Your life shouldn't be a life just of believing. By the way, when I looked at this word, so I was talking to my brother. We came to this word, believe. If you see that there is actually, that is a compounded word. There are two words, be and live. Be and live, which is being, right? Which is yourself, your true self, Christ consciousness, awareness, being. You are a human being, so it's being, living. Being, living. Because that's how you should live. That is your life. Live your life according to the awareness, the Christ consciousness, the self, the King, God. So I wasn't maybe embarrassed or sad that people rejected me. I didn't have any problem. I understood that it's about the time, you know. I spoke to one lady in 2014, teaching her about some things. She didn't understand them at that time. She called me 2018 earlier and said, look, I understand what you meant now. So she understood what I was talking about in 2014. She understood it 4 years later, which is 2018. So just know this, as you keep on hearing these words, stay with this word, stay with this energy, harbor this energy, move beyond religion, stop being a religious person. I think God is pleased with you being a religious person. Like I've said, the people that Jesus had really troubled with, a problem with, and which also actually they had a problem with him, were the religious person, the religious people, the religious sector. They called themselves Pharisees. They knew the scripture. They knew what the prophet said. They knew the history. They knew everything about the Israel history, you know, which were called by that time God's people. But even though they knew all of that, they knew that Jesus was coming too, by the way. They knew that Jesus was coming. Let us be ready for Jesus. But then when he appeared, they didn't receive him. They rejected him. And he had to go to people who were not meant to be his people. And those received him. Telling me about religion. Think God is pleased with you being a religious person? God? Being religious? No. He wants you to be aware. He wants you to have this Christ consciousness and live by that. That is your life. Go beyond believing, but live through the being that you are. Thank you for being with us. And this is church.
Thank you for watching. To view the complete videos, go to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Renewed Society. And to interact more with us, visit our Facebook page at Renewed Society. This is Church.